I just want to warn you in advance that I'm about to play one of the most successful ads that Donald ran during the 2024 presidential election cycle. Stick with me, though, because I'm going to explain on the other side.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
It's hard to believe, but it's true. Even the liberal media was shocked Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners and illegal aliens.
Every transgender inmate would have access.
Kamala's for they, them. President Trump is for you.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
All right, here's an interesting fact. Americans overestimate the size of minority groups and underestimate the size of majority groups, which has some explanatory power. So according to this chart, this is data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and polls by YouGov. Americans guessed that 33% of us are first generation immigrants. The real number is 14%. They think that 41% of us are Black, when the real number is 12%, 39% are Hispanic when the number is 17%, 27% of Americans are Muslim when actually Muslims make up less than 1% of the population. They think that 27% are gay or lesbian when gay and lesbians make up only 3% of the population. And Americans think that 21% of us are transgender when transgender Americans make up less than 1% of the population. So, like, so much for those secret in-school transgender operations, right, Donald? I mean, it was all just bullshit and scare tactics. So I think all of this does explain some of why our leaders think that they can govern through fear and the bullying of communities that they lead people to perceive are a bigger risk when actually they're a significantly smaller portion of the population than people are led to believe. Because we as a country are often trafficked in this thing called othering, right? And that is stirring up fear about minority groups by either making outrageous claims about the dangers they pose or lying about how large a piece of the population they comprise. So on December 4th, Chase Strangio is going to make history as the first openly transgender lawyer to argue before the Supreme Court. His mission is fighting back against what Donald calls, quote, stopping the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. Let's hear what Chase has to say about what is really at stake here.
I spent a lot of time talking to conservative lawmakers, and I think that conservative lawmakers do know about the effects of this legislation. In the states where there are hearings, these lawmakers are hearing doctors tell them that this is an absolute intrusion into best practice medicine, that patients are going to suffer, that patients are going to struggle, and that some will die. They have heard young people explain that this care has saved their lives. They've heard parents beg them not to override their judgment as parents. So they are well aware of the consequences of their actions, and they do not care.
Texas legislators have been attacking me since pre-K. I am in 4th grade now.
We cannot expect these extremely gerrymandered governments, these extraordinarily voter-suppressed states to be listening to us and acting in accordance with anyone's best interests. It is incumbent upon us to take action collectively to fight back against the very insidious things that are happening right before our eyes.
Chase is fighting against the movement that Tennessee, along with 20 other states with similar bans, are arguing in defense of bigoted legislature, claiming that state legislatures are protecting young people from life-altering consequences of so-called controversial medical care. Some of these bans include HB 2610, which would terminate the human rights condition with no wind-down period. SB 2766 would remove the educator's obligation to ensure a child has the right to education and support based on family and or sexual orientations. This also does not require sex education to be medically accurate, which seems insane to me. SB 1738 would specifically allow people to foster or adopt children without having to acknowledge or support the child's sexual orientation or gender identity. These aren't just state level attacks anymore, though. Last week, we watched Nancy Mace and Mike Johnson. Nancy Mace, a representative in the House of Representatives, and Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, weaponizing bathroom access on Capitol Hill, targeting one person, and nobody else. And that person is State Senator, soon to be Congresswoman Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender person elected to Congress. Check out this clip.
U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson today took aim at Democrat Sarah McBride, the first ever transgender member elected to Congress, with his decision to bar transgender people from using those Capitol complex bathrooms that do not align with their sex assigned at birth.
But we have single-sex facilities for a reason.
McBride today said she didn't come to Washington to fight about bathrooms. South Carolina Republican Nancy Mace has led the charge to bar McBride from women's rooms here and does not acknowledge McBride is a woman.
Okay, so Nancy Mace is pretending that she's a feminist and she's in this fight against one person because she's so concerned about the rights of women and girls.
Radical left is calling me an extremist for being a feminist, fighting to protect the rights of women and girls. If being a feminist makes me an extremist or a bigot or a monster, I am totally here for it, because I'm going to fight like hell for every woman and every little girl across this country to protect you and keep you safe.
Really? So you have nothing to say about the fact that adjudicated rapist Donald Trump keeps nominating and appointing men who are credibly accused of sexual assault and rape. Listen, grifter's going to grift. So while Mace busies herself by selling $35 t-shirts, yes, she's actually selling merchandise to profit off of a crisis she manufactured under the guise of feminism. Congresswoman-elect Bride remains focused on what really matters.
I did run for office after my experience as a caregiver to my husband, Andy, during his battle with cancer. And throughout that experience, while Andy ultimately lost his life, we both knew how lucky we were. We knew how lucky Andy was to have health insurance that would allow him to get care that would hopefully save his life. And we both knew how lucky we were to have flexibility with our employers that allowed Andy to focus on the full-time job of getting care and me to focus on the full-time job of being there by his side to care for him, to love him, to marry him, and to walk him to his passing. And I ran for office because I do not believe that in the wealthiest, most developed nation on earth, that time and that ability to get care should be a matter of luck. I believe it should be the law of the land, and it's why during my time in the Delaware General Assembly, I passed paid family and medical leave and secured the largest investment in our state's Medicaid program. And I want to do that work in Congress on health care, but also on housing and child care.
I just want to take a quick second to ask you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. It's free. Okay, so let's get back to our examination of what it looks like when our leaders govern through cruelty and bullying. The pattern of bullying is not limited to the transgender community, of course, although the transgender community is among our most vulnerable. But we know that Tom Homan, Donald's pick for board czar, is himself an incredible bully, and he is threatening anybody who will help protect undocumented workers that Homan is going to deport or put in camps. Donald, of course, has been a bully his whole life, and he knows better perhaps than anybody that you start with the most vulnerable among us and work your way up. And we see this as media outlet after media outlet obeys in advance in anticipation of backlash from the incoming Trump administration if they actually did their jobs. So from the Supreme Court to Capitol Hill to communities across America, we're watching governing by bullying become the norm. But here's what they don't understand. Communities under tech aren't going to disappear. They're going to organize, they're going to fight back, and they're going to show up. And you know what? We're going to organize, fight back, and show up with them. So just ask Chase Strangio. He wakes up every day, quote, with unending gratitude for being trans, unquote, while he prepares to make history at the Supreme Court. Or Sarah McBride, who responded to being banned from bathrooms on Capitol Hill by saying that she's going to continue to focus on doing real work that matters for the American people. The bullies might be loud, they might be vicious, and they might be in power, but they are not going to win. And we are going to show them just how many of us there really are standing in opposition to them. Hey, everybody. In case you weren't aware, I am spectacularly bad at self-promotion. So here goes. Please subscribe to our channel and like and share our videos. Your support means so much to all of us. Thank you.